We're live
Hi.
and recording.
Are we
Hi.
live? Yay, success.
It's
Yay!
so exciting. It's like
This-
live theater.
Oh, it's not at all like live theater.
No, that's
Make
true.
no
That's
mistake. Very important to not confuse these platforms for live theater.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry,
Well,
just,
that is true.
I
That is
just
true,
feel we
Melia.
need to keep reminding people that as much great stuff as there is online, it is not the same as being in a theater with all of us. That's all. And with each
And
other.
I think we are all acutely and increasingly aware of that.
Yeah.
So let's keep reminding ourselves. So I'm seeing in the chat, hooray, all systems go. Hooray.
Hello, hello.
So, looks like we're good to go. Wow. So thank you, everybody, for coming here tonight for A Little Harmless Fun. This is the first of the Mark Twain House's virtual programs. We had a whole raft, dozens and dozens and dozens of programs lined up for spring, summer, and the rest of the year. And who knows when we'll be able to do them in person again, but until then, you can count on us to bring them all online, and we'll just continue to have fun. A Little Harmless Fun is a series that our dear friend Frank Rizzo started with us, 2 years ago now, Frank?
Yeah,
really?
just about, yeah.
And it's just an opportunity for him to bring really interesting people in the world of art and culture and theater and restaurants and whoever, just to talk and have a little harmless fun, which is a quotation from Mark Twain's Recollections of Joan of Arc, which was actually the favorite of his own books. So his favorite of his own books. So I'm not going to talk too long. I should introduce myself. I'm Jennifer LaRue. I'm the Director of Public Programs at the Mark Twain House and Museum. And I have a master's degree in English, and this tech stuff is like a very old dog learning very new tricks. So bear with me as I muster through the technology here. I want to say, first of all, that I'm thrilled. We have 146 people registered for this event tonight, which is just amazing, and we're so grateful for your support and enthusiasm. I want to point out a few features. This is our first Crowdcast, and I had never even heard of Crowdcast 3 weeks ago, and now it's like my whole life. So I want to show you that along the right-hand side of your screen, there's a chat. And please, as you're already doing, chat with one another, send words of encouragement, tell us how your drink is. If you actually have a question, though, for the Q&A that will occur at the end of the program, please look down at the bottom of the screen where it says Ask a Question, and enter your question there. One of the features of Crowdcast is that if more than one person has the same question, it will tally that up, and so that at the end, when I pop back on the screen, I'll be able to answer or pose the questions that the most people have asked. So that's going to be pretty cool. So ask away. There's a poll for you to answer there. If you look down there, I reposted our cocktail recipe. So if you need to take a break and go mix your cocktail, go ahead and do that. And then perhaps most important of all, I've included a number of opportunities for you to support the 3 organizations that are represented here tonight: the Mark Twain House and Museum, Hartford Stage, and Long Wharf Theater. We are all in this together, and I think at times like this, we really remember how very vitally important our arts and culture institutions are to our community and to our survival. We look to our artists and writers and performers at times like this to help guide us through dark times, and so your contributions, however big or small they may be, really do make a difference, not just in terms of the monetary value, but in terms of making a gesture of support that conveys your enthusiasm, your optimism, and your confidence that we're all going to come through this okay and be much stronger at the end of it all. And that's something to look forward to. I'm not going to talk too much longer, but I do want to just point out that the Mark Twain House staff has been working tirelessly to continue to provide things mostly for free online. So you can, for instance, take an annotated 3D virtual reality tour of the Mark Twain House. Our dear friend Tony Healy donated his time and services to create that tour for us a few years ago, and man, are we grateful for it now. And our interpretive staff has added annotations. So go to our website, which is marktwainhouse.org and check that out. For people who are schooling their kids at home or just looking for things to do, our education staff and interpretive staff have put tons of things up on our website, activities, and some of them fun, some of them just educational, most of them both to do at home. So check that out. Also on our website, there's a garden tour that you can take, and we have extended our membership opportunity so that you get more than a year's worth of membership if you sign up now. And most of all, we just want to remind you that Mark Twain lived in Hartford. He would have been such a commentator on what's going on now. We miss him and wish he were here now, but we extend his legacy through the work we do. And my goodness, wouldn't he have loved Crowdcast? So with that in mind, I'm going to pass the baton to Frank Rizzo, who's going to take it from here, and I'll see you all at the end for the questions and answers. I think Frank's going to lead us in a toast before I leave.
Pretty soon. I just want to say good evening, all, and thank you for joining in for this very special edition of our A Little Harmless Fun show. Tonight, we're going to be having an informal chat with two relatively new artistic directors who are leading their Tony Award recognized theaters, Melia Bensussen and Jacob Padrón at Wharf Theater in New Haven. This series of casual conversations are with people that I'd like to think Mark Twain would have been invited over to his house, presumably for some smart talk, some laughs, and maybe to share a drink or a cigar. So in the spirit of Mark Twain, and since I don't smoke cigars, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, Frank.
And
thank you, Melia, and thank you, Jacob.
And if you can see behind me, there's a little bobblehead Mark Twain totem to remind. There he is, right over there, to remind us of his spirit here. So, good evening, Melia. Good evening, Jacob. And where are you speaking from?
I'm in New Haven. I'm in New Haven in the East Rock neighborhood.
And Melia?
I'm in my apartment. I think you can see the piano and an art set designer's rendering from a previous show, and the flowers. The flowers are fake because I kill flowers and plants, but the flowers are also a prop from a show.
Very tasty.
So it all looks like it's a real house, but it's a little. It's a little ersatz, if you know.
How are you all doing? That's
We're
the main
home.
question. And how is everyone that makes up Hartford Stage and Wharf Theater doing? It's been a month now, and things change over the course of time. So can you just give us an update on and how you're doing and how your extended family is doing?
You want to go first, Jacob?
You do it.
I want to just start by saying that I'm very grateful to Frank because I only get to see Jacob when Frank arranges it. So I'm your fan from a distance, Jacob. And it's ridiculous. Jacob and I have been trying to get together since we both took our jobs. So it says something about how busy we've been. Thank you for asking. I'm actually doing quite well. I feel very blessed. The Hartford Stage staff, we're down to a core staff. We miss all our furloughed colleagues, so that's hard. But the folks that are with us are working round the clock, and there's a great sense of camaraderie and of energy. We have a terrific board that's been supportive, so we're working at it. I just personally, both my grown children have moved back home, as it were. So I'm having a very interesting time. We're back to a family of four, which we haven't been for a bit. My 23-year-old and my 20-year-old. She was in London. He was in San Francisco. Everyone's come home. So
you can actually do long days journey into night there.
I'd rather do a wilderness, but I appreciate the plug. I'll do the dream happy play, and the drink notwithstanding, we'll try to stay away from some of the O'Neill family habits. Okay. But thank you for asking. And Jacob, how are you? How's Jacob? That's what I want to hear.
Yes, Jacob.
I'm hanging in there. I mean, it's been really, to be honest, it's been really hard. It's been really tough. But I think, like both of you, my sense is that we're just, we're buoyed and by the community, just the way in which
That's
people are
right.
coming together and it's really supporting all of us. We really are making the path together, and I just have really marveled at the way that the staff has galvanized, the way that the board is engaged. This in a moment like this, I do feel really bad to be far from my family. So I'm a California boy, so everyone's in
hard.
California. So
Yeah.
to not be close to my parents or my grandparents, my brothers and sisters.
Is
Although
everyone
my sister,
okay?
what's that?
Is everyone healthy? Is everyone okay so
Yeah,
far?
everyone's okay. Yes. My brother's a fireman, so he's really on the front line.
Oh,
So just, so I think that's the piece that's hard, just to be far away from the family. But I too feel very blessed to, have a roof over my head, have food to eat, have a warm bed to sleep in. I mean, I think that what this global pandemic is showing us, right, is the disparity. Gosh, the disparity that really does exist in our country and really around the world. So I'm just constantly thinking about how do we come together, and I think in the future, how can theater really be of service in response to this global pandemic? Yeah.
Well, my next question is, how do we stay engaged and connected? It's important to people in general right now who are told to be in their homes to stay connected. Uh, but we in the theater are used to being connected in different ways. This is, of course, one way to stay connected, but I think we're all exploring different ways to not let this get us down, or try to think of new and maybe productive ways of connecting in different ways with our audiences, with our staffs, with our theater lovers in Connecticut. If for no other reason is just to say we're still here. I know, Melia, I saw your debut in your, but everyone's trying different things. Can you just, both of you, talk about, different ways that you are staying connected, either online or through other means?
I can go.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the, I think that with great limitations come like really cool opportunities.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the space that I'm trying to really live in. I think as a new artistic director, there's no, Frank, there's no playbook to how to do this job. And it's no secret that Long Wharf Theater was, was struggling. I mean, I think we continue to struggle. I mean, it's not a secret in terms of why I'm in the position that I'm in terms of, why the artistic director position opened up. And so there was a lot of rebuilding to do. There was a lot of healing to do. And so with COVID-19, I think in many ways it's kind of exacerbated our challenges. That being said, I do think that with real challenge and with real limitation, I think comes innovation, comes excitement, comes possibility. So I think, with Kit Ingley, our managing director, and with the whole staff and the leadership team of Long Wharf, we are deep in the kind of ideation of how do we take this moment and really transform. One of the things that we did was we partnered with 4 other leading theaters around the country, and we launched a program called Play at Home, where we commissioned writers all around the country to write microplays, to write 5 to 10 minute plays. And then we put them on a website and made them accessible to the world. Because theater, while I agree that it's very much about what it means to come into a dark space and community and experience that relationship between actor and audience, and I think we're all storytellers and we all have artistry. So to have these plays accessible to everyone that you can just download and just read as a family, with your husband, with your wife, with your partner, with your friends, I think that's another way that we can make community. So playathome.org was is one example of the ways that we're trying to innovate and ways that we're trying to find silver linings in this global crisis.
It's theater people are artists and they're creative. And I would like to think that, like you said, in difficult times after the initial shock is over, you can see it's happening all over with the New York artists, but in regional theaters across the country who are coming up with new and creative things like play at home and things like these types of communications that that the different theaters are doing. Theater people have great imaginations. They have great creativity, and I think we're seeing some of that emerging now. So, Melia, how are you liking your new job as hostess every week of?
Yeah, right. As Jacob put it, I mean, there's no playbook to do these jobs of artistic director, and here we are, both of us, as so many artistic directors around the country. We're all wrestling theaters, symphonies, museums, restaurants. I think, you know, the crucial thing is to support the arts organizations and the near you that matter to you. Contributions to all of us matter so much. Yeah, as you point out, so I had started, I just want to say first, I love the play at home idea. Very exciting to see these tremendous theater folks gathering for this. It's a wonderful program. So a huge shout out to that. When I became artistic director, I started an email that we called Seen and Heard, SCENE, and Heard. That was a way of reaching out to folks who were coming to the theater to talk about whatever play they were about to see and why I thought it was interesting and what I was thinking about, just trying to set up, as Jacob says, it's all about connection and community. So that's been really important to me since coming to Hartford. When this hit, and as all of us, we were just suddenly faced with everything being canceled and people not in our wonderful theater, we had the idea of just we didn't know it was going to be weekly. We just said, let's do a Seen and Heard live. Let's just invite everyone on a Zoom platform to have what we called a virtual cocktail party. So Frank, I love the toast because we do this every week to Hartford Stage. And the idea was really just not to replace the experience of live theater, but to remember that we're connected to each other and we're connected to this extraordinary craft. So we've now had 4 of them. I welcome all of you. If you go to the Hartford Stage webpage, there's now a separate Seen and Heard page. That's how fast this extraordinary staff has moved. And you can click on to see, they're just an hour. And the idea is to just remind you of how much you love the theater, to introduce you to aspects of it that you may not know, and learn more about the craft and really see each other. We finish every episode, if you might call them that, every broadcast, I don't know. It is a new life, Frank, you're right. Yeah. But we finish each one with a collective reading. And we have board members, staff members, community members, activists, our neighborhood ambassadors. Everyone joins in and we finish the reading with all of us, all our faces on Zoom, reading, you know, beautiful words together. And then we toasted the theater. And I, to be honest, Jacob's so right. I feel so privileged. I have a home, my children are safe and they're with me. And I have this wonderful theater that I can keep talking about to all of you. So it's been a real gift, these Seen and Heard.
Plus,
who knew?
It's a great way to connect with both of you personally. Yes, it's one thing to read what I write in a blog or what Chris Arnott writes at the Hartford Current or the other writers around the state. And it's nice to see you maybe on an opening night or something like that. But this is the way we get to know you personally. And I think you are the face of your theaters. And it's not just a brick building. There's people inside. And you're the people who are leading those people. So I think it's a very, even though it's a virtual connection, it's a very human one too. And I promise you we're going to be talking about your new seasons. I want to say 2 things. One is our listeners, our viewers, our virtual audience can, if they're so inspired, can donate and down there, and we can. We're going to the three nonprofits will be splitting this. Nothing goes to my house, but it will go to a great theater, hopefully, or a great programming at the Mark Twain House. And secondly, it's a way to, before we go to that new season that you can now subscribe to, right, guys? I want to talk to both of you about when you were first gobsmacked with theater, where you grew up, and when you decided theater was going to be your life. Whether it was a friendly fellow came knocking at the door and sweeping you away, or was it an insidious pull that wooed you over many, many years? Jacob, when did you get the bug?
Let's see. Well, so my path to the theater was very windy, in terms of how I ended up in this position. But I grew up in California. I grew up just south of San Francisco. I grew up in Gilroy, the garlic capital of the world, and I'm allergic to garlic. That is the irony of my life, which is
I'm Italian and you're my god. Gilroy is my home.
It's a great little community. The one thing that I feel really lucky though, growing up in Gilroy, is it was really close to a seminal theater company called the Farm Worker Theater, called El Teatro Campesino. It was started by Luis Valdez. And I was really fortunate in that my family knew their family, that, my parents would take me to see the shows. And then when I was even a little bit older, we would perform in the shows together when they would invite community into some of the programs that they did. They did a big Christmas show that was all about making theater with the community. So, and the whole kind of the animating idea behind the Teatro Campesino was to use theater as a catalyst for social justice, to bring awareness to the plight of the farm workers. And so I think that those seeds were all, were planted very early on, in terms of, theater does more than just tell a story, that theater can change hearts and minds, and theater can bring people together in community. But it wasn't until I was much older, actually. It was after I went to, finish my undergrad. I was a social worker in North Carolina doing HIV/AIDS work. It wasn't until much later that I eventually kind of circled back to the theater. I ended up doing a theater internship in Baltimore, at Baltimore Center Stage, with a wonderful woman, Irene Lewis, who was the artistic director for many years there. And I just met wonderful mentors there. And they said, "We think you're a producer." They were like, "We think that you should go to graduate school." And also someone that I'm thinking a lot about is another mentor who also encouraged me to go to grad school and to have a life in the theater, who actually just passed away, Diane Rodriguez, who was a longtime producer, activist, was a part of El Teatro Campesino for many years. She worked at Center Theater Group in Los Angeles. But I've just been reflecting a lot on mentors, the people who opened so many doors for me, who instilled that theater bug, so that I could have a life. The life that I have now as artistic director of Wharf. But that's sort of the abridged version of how it happened for me. Yeah.
And Melia, Mexico City, perhaps, or later?
No. I just want to say that Teatro Campesino is one of the great theater companies in the world, and how lucky you were, Jacob, to grow up with those extraordinary people, and how sad I am about Diane Rodriguez's passing. I fell in love with theater when I was around 4 years old, I think. I grew up in Mexico City. My father's Mexican and my mother's American. And there was a children's theater company where the guy who ran it was El Zapatero Remendón, which means the repairing shoemaker. That's a very bad translation, but it sounds so good in Spanish, right? Zapatero Remendón. And I can see myself in that audience at the age of 4, just falling in love with it. as with so many folks, I had thought I would be an actor, and then discovered directing while in college. And Jacob's call out to mentors is really resonates for me. I was so lucky. I did an internship at Actors Theater of Louisville, and as part of their Humana Festival, I was a dramaturg. They didn't have directing internships then. And the directors and actors who were there during the Humana Festival that I was there were incredibly supportive. I'll do, since, you know, grief and joy go together, my friend Mark Blum passed away from the virus, and his wife, the extraordinary actress Janet Zarish. Jacob, I think they were both at Long Wharf together. Janet is ill and I hope recovering. But
Janet was in Other People's Money at Hartford Stage.
She absolutely was. And also we have a photo of her I was looking at during Seen and Heard of Marvin's Room. She was also in Marvin's Room. And she was also in this little production of A Doll's House in 1986, where Mark Lemos played Dr. Ronk. Emily Mann directed, and it was my first professional job assisting Emily Mann. So, Janet, I hope you're feeling better. And what a loss Mark's passing is. But I had such great support from the folks who came through Humana. And then I was really lucky to land a job at the Public Theater with Joseph Papp. As Jacob, I don't know if I ever told you this, I was interviewed for the box office. I had heard that they needed bilingual people in the box office, and I did grow up with both languages. I love translating. And so I was called into the Public to interview for the box office. I think minimum wage then was like $6.25 an hour or something. I date myself. And I went to interview at the box office. There was this amazing thing at the Public in the summers called Festival Latino, where theater companies from Latin America and from Spain and from Portugal, all Spanish and Portuguese speaking countries would come, right? And I was about to interview at the box office, and someone said, oh, you know, they need an assistant to answer the phones in the Festival Latino office because their person just got an acting job. And so I got hired on the spot, and little by little got to know Joseph Papp, who was an extraordinary mentor to me. I will just end by saying he fired me. It was the nicest way of being fired in my life. He took me to dinner with his wife, Gail Papp, who I was her assistant as a dramaturg. And they took me to dinner. They bought me dinner and told me they were firing me so I could go on unemployment and just keep directing all the time, because they could tell, Jacob, not unlike your story, there were people who said, you're a director, stop it. I think maybe I was calling in sick too many times because I was going into tech rehearsals instead of being at my job. But so it's the best firing. I mean, I got fired by Joe Papp. I mean, you know, it's a great list of people who got fired by Joe Papp.
Both of their journeys to get to where you are now are going so many directions and cross so many paths. And I think that's going to express itself in what you're going to be doing in the future. I'm at home here on Worcester Square in New Haven, where the cherry blossoms are having their last fling. And it reminds me that even after the toughest of winters, though the last one wasn't so bad, spring is coming and spring is here. There's new growth and there's a sense of renewal that comes eventually. And I guess the word now is eventually. So speaking of renewals and speaking of eventually, you both were fortunate enough to announce your new seasons. The first ones that both of you have crafted entirely by yourself with your staffs, of course. And that was announced right before or right about the same time as the shutdown. But the word is out that people can now subscribe for the new season. And so now let's talk about the new season. Melia, first, in terms of you've announced 4 of the 5, 4 of the 6, and I'm crossing my fingers that perhaps Our Wilderness can maybe come around, because I was really looking forward to that production. I think your take on it was so interesting. So can you talk a little bit about Our Wilderness, which was to have played in May next month, and now is sort of in limbo, but maybe
it's
not.
no longer in limbo, right?
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Thank you, Frank. With perfect lead-in. We've just announced, I think today, or I announced on Seen and Heard last night. You have to join us on Seen and Heard for truly breaking news. But we're going to finish this year's season in the fall. So we've just announced that the History of Comedy Abridged by the Extraordinary Reduced Shakespeare Company will play in early October. And A Wilderness will go into rehearsal end of September and start performances mid to late October. So with the team from the designs are in, and I'm hoping that the cast that we'd offered the roles to will be available then. That is, my hope, and that we'll do that production of A Wilderness in the fall and then start the 2021 season actually in January of 21. So we're kind of delaying the start and planning to do the 6 plays from starting in January. So we'll do our entire 2021 season starting in January, and we'll finish our 1920 season this coming fall. So, of course, this depends on all of you supporting the theater, and thank you for those of you who have supported Hartford Stage, and on the public health situation. We'll be responsible, and we're all doing this day by day, but we're very excited to reopen the theater with these 2 productions that we were eager to do this.
But the other shows aren't chopped liver either.
I don't like chopped liver. It's just not one of those.
It's all choice.
It is.
As You Like It, of course, is.
Yep.
And so, and the world premiere of Simona's Search.
Yeah, by Martin Zimmerman. Yeah, who's Jacob? Do you know Martin? I see you.
Yeah, absolutely. He was the second writer that we produced for the Soul Project.
Of course, he was. This is why that Jacob and I aren't like doing more stuff together. I have to just do. Jacob, shift the camera so we can see the Zoot Suit poster.
Oh,
where?
Frank, that Jacob and I share a love for this play.
Oh, that's a great poster too. So
I gotta say, Zoot Suit was, I never wanted to do anything but theater. I'm sort of narrow that way. But the production of Zoot Suit that poster originally was from, I drove with a girlfriend to LA from San Diego, where we'd moved from Mexico, to see, and I'm seeing the comments, and someone just wrote, it's an awesome poster. It's an awesome poster. It's an even more awesome show. And one day, Long Wharf and Hartford Stage are going to go produce that. We are going to do that. We are going to do that.
Breaking news all over the place.
Oh, wait, these fell out, so I don't hear anything. Okay, I'm back.
And then don't forget to mention that Martin Zimmerman is the writer and producer of Netflix's Ozark.
Amazon Prime, I think. I don't think it's. Yeah, I love Ozark, and Laura Linney.
Prime, you're right.
Yeah, I got Laura. Laura Linney's an old friend, and she came on Seen and Heard because of Martin, because she wanted to sing his praises. So
and then
we're very excited to have him.
And you have Pearl Cleage's new play,
Angry, Raucous, and Shamelessly Gorgeous. I mean, if that's not a title.
Great title. And
wait, someone just wrote that Ozark is on Netflix.
Is on Netflix.
Oh,
I thought it was Amazon Prime. Are you sure? I'm asking.
I'm not sure.
So Joey knows it.
Joey knows his stuff. I stand corrected, and I am standing because I can't think sitting down. Thank you, Joey. I apologize for my mistake.
Joey's my executive assistant at Long Wharf.
Oh, thank you, Joey. Pearl Cleage is amazing. She's one of our leading African-American dramatists. This production is directed by Susan Booth. They've had a long collaboration at the Alliance Theater.
The Alliance, yeah.
Yeah, and it's for African-American women having a raucous time talking about generational differences, right? What is feminism, second wave versus third wave? I live with a 20-year-old daughter, so I'm well versed in being, not quite woke enough about some of these things. The play captures the dynamic generationally, and also what it means to be aging as an artist, which I think, we're all artists, really, right? If we use that term. And I'm afraid we're all aging. So, and it's really funny. So we're very excited about Angry Raucous. And then the other title we've announced, you're going to go, you want to do it or you want me to?
I'm really excited about this one. It's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And the emphasis is on Mary Shelley because this is began at Looking Glass.
That's exactly right. And it's an incredibly theatrical, there's circus elements in this production. It's scary in the best kind of theater scary. So you won't be hurt, but you're surprised, you're startled, you're awakened, if you will. And it really takes the point of view of Mary Shelley writing Frankenstein. She's 19, she's in the lake in Geneva, and it's a dare from these men surrounding her. They all have a contest of who can write the scariest story, and Mary Shelley wins.
So but people can just go down there and subscribe. No, they donate there. They have to go to the Hartford Stage.
Go to hartfordstage.org, not hard. I'll do my... Right. Yes. We need you. I mean, that's the truth. We all need you, but it is going to be a great season next year.
And then over at Long Wharf Theater. But before we get to Long Wharf Theater, I just want to acknowledge an actor in Connecticut who's very important to the community who died yesterday. So condolences to the family of Bridgeport native actor Brian Dennehy, who died last night at the age of 81. The death was not COVID related, but the veteran actor had appeared in many shows in Connecticut, mostly at Long Wharf Theater. He starred in terrific productions there. And this is just my first time I saw him he played Walter Burns in The Front Page. This was in the early 80s, and he was terrific. He was only like 40 then, but he was so powerful. And then, of course, he was at Long Wharf's production of Beckett's Craps Last Tape and Endgame, and, of course, Eugene O'Neill's Huey. And last time we saw him at Long Wharf Stage was for Love Letters with Mia Farrow just a few years ago.
Wow.
So a salute to a great Connecticut actor.
Amen. I saw him in Peter Brook's Cherry Orchard at BAM. Did you see that, Frank?
No.
Oh, Jacob, you're too young. I'm not even going to ask you.
He's getting older by the day.
Well, these jobs will age us. My gray hairs are starting to come in. I'm just saying. Thank you, Frank. That's really moving to hear his name.
So Jacob, you're starting with bullfighting for your first show whenever we start. Can you talk a little bit about...
I will. So, a couple of things that sort of guided my season planning process. One of the things was I really wanted to... It was important to me that all of the 5 stories really be in conversation with each other. And that they have a healthy dose of joy, actually. Like, I think that the world is on fire, and I think that we need some joyful stories. And so the other thing that I was thinking a lot about was how do we honor phenomenal women? How do we really make Long Wharf Theater a space that really celebrates and honors women? Women voices, women directors in particular. So that was a real kind of a stake in the ground that as I was thinking about this season, I knew very early on that I wanted all of the plays to be directed by phenomenal women. I also thought a lot about really thinking about Long Wharf. I think for many years, really, since when we were founded in 1965, as a real incubator for new talent, and to be a place that could launch new American plays. And so wanting to kind of return to those pillars, wanting to return to those roots. So that's why it was important in my mind to start my inaugural season with the world premiere, written by a woman and written by a woman of color. So Monet Hurst Mendoza is a writer that I've been following for many years, and she wrote the play Torera, which is about a woman who wants to be a bullfighter, and when we think of bullfighting, right, we think that it is a very masculine male activity. And Monet really wanted to throw that out the window. So with her longtime collaborator, Tatiana Pandiani, we've made a commitment to bring that world premiere to life. We did a workshop in New York last fall, and the characters are so vivid, the story is so vivid. We're really excited to share that with our audiences. Then,
so are you doing a running of the bulls at the food terminal?
It's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that, but probably not.
Okay.
The other thing that Long Wharf does is, we're a place for classic plays. And so how do we tell classic stories in new and exciting ways? And so Shauna Cooper, who is my dear, dear friend, we went to graduate school together. She's a real lover of Shakespeare, and has an adaptation of A Midsummer Night's Dream. So A Night's Dream is what we're calling it, because it really is going to be an adaptation, and she's going to bring kind of her signature style and aesthetic to to this play that I think we know very well, but I think going to infuse new life into it. So that's going to be second. Then it was important to me to double down on our commitment to the community, specifically the organizations that have really been trying to foster a creative ecology for our local artists of color. So Collective Consciousness Theater, CCT, led brilliantly by Dexter Singleton and Jenny Nelson. They were two artists that I reached out to almost immediately when I arrived in New Haven and said, hey, for my inaugural season, I really want to celebrate the local community, and I want to celebrate your company. Can we work on a show together? So The Elaborate Entrance of Chad Deity by Christopher Diaz is the piece that we're going to be able to do together. Then Queen is also a new play by Madri Shaker. It's going to be in partnership with a company that I've always admired for many, many years. They're based in New York City, called NACO, National Asian American Theater Company, led by the brilliant Mia Katibak and Peter Kim. So that's going to be a partnership. And then closing it out with a real celebration of New Haven's jazz roots. All of the great jazz musicians came through New Haven. I didn't even know this history until I started to learn more about the city that I live in. So we're going to close this season with Jelly's Last Jam, and going to do a big revival. And that's going to be directed by Patricia McGregor, who was mentored by George C. Wolfe, who
was my student. Patricia
God.
McGregor was my student at Southern Methodist University a lifetime ago. So I was so excited, Jacob, when I saw this. I was so excited. I'm going to subscribe. I'm subscribing to your season. I'm totally into it.
Well,
excellent.
Also, Hartford has a great jazz scene as well as New Haven. So maybe you could, not to steal anything from Hartford Stage, but that jazz audience, huge jazz audience in Hartford, would be just as interested in coming to see Jelly's Last Jam.
Listen,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I really do believe a rising tide lifts all boats. And the ideal is to have all these theaters in Connecticut thriving. And so to support one is not to not support the other. Do you know? Well, Hartford Stage needs Long Wharf to thrive.
And Long Wharf Hartford Stage, there needs
to
be
and we need Theater Works, and we need the Mark Twain House, and we need the Wadsworth, and we all need each other, because that's what makes Connecticut special, is this extraordinary array of riches in the arts organizations.
And just as a theater lover, these shows, bullfighting, Frankenstein, Shakespeare in one way, Shakespeare another way, professional wrestling. These are plays that intrigue us, that inspire us, that make us really curious on what they're going to be about. And then certainly with Jelly's Last Jam, which I saw when it was on Broadway, terrific show, very sexy too. Don't forget to mention that it's very sexy. That I would go see these shows wherever they are in Connecticut. Connecticut's a small state. It's only 40 minutes away to see great theater. So it doesn't make any difference where it is. Great theater is great theater.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think that it was important to me that the end of the season really be a celebration, of for and by the community. Oh no, I think we lost Melia. Hopefully she'll log back in soon.
Well, hopefully she'll come back in. But and I think that's what when all this is over, we'll be certainly in the mood for that sense of joy, that sense of hope, that sense of excitement, and being alive again in a theatrical setting, and sharing great theater.
Yes, absolutely. I think joy and resiliency, I think, are going to be are things that I'm thinking deeply about as we think about the future. The other thing that I want to mention, just in terms of what actually officially kicks off the Long Wharf season before we actually do Torera by Monet Hurst Mendoza, is Long Wharf Theater is gonna host a State of the Union, an artistic
Oh,
conference.
right.
We really,
Yeah.
I think in an election year, how do we use the theater or just the arts in general to help rebuild our democracy? How can we come together again? How do we come together in community and really show the world that arts and culture are just as important as our schools and our roadways? And I think that the theater in particular has has a special role to play, I think, in this work. So that'll hopefully happen in September or October, in the
Great.
fall.
And as I recall, you mentioned a one night only 20th anniversary reading.
And we're going to do an anniversry reading,
person of New Haven.
And Alice Carey's A Good Person of New Haven, which was, I think, a real seminal moment. It'll be the 20th anniversary, which was, really what it means to create theater in community. Bill and Allison co-founded the company Cornerstone in Los Angeles, which was all about making theater in community with folks. So we're going to do that together.
And
yes.
Don't forget Raul Esparza, who is now a big star on Broadway, led that production.
Yes.
And
yes.
Footnote, my husband was in that show.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yeah, so it's a small world. So that's a cool thing. You also mentioned a while back the remix. Is that still
the remix? Yep, it's going to be our lab. Where Long Wharf Theater is going to launch a lab for it. Basically, it's going to be an artistic playground where we'll develop new plays, new musicals, but also to really be a space to amplify and support the local artists. Who the New Haven has kind of an embarrassment of riches. Yeah. And I think that Long Wharf hasn't always done a great job of really opening our doors and opening our stages to those artists. So I think it was important to me to really have an artistic home to celebrate their gifts and to amplify their voices. So the remix is going to be a space where we're gonna really try to do that. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like there's all this exciting stuff that is just bubbling below the surface, waiting to come. So hopefully by the fall, who knows? But certainly there's stuff to look forward to and stuff to get excited about. When both of you announced your seasons, it was like, really, it's my favorite time of the year when new seasons are announced, because it gives you something to look forward to in the new year. And there's so much original stuff or new visions of existing stuff. So I'm going to shout out to Jennifer, wherever she is, to see if there are questions from our viewers.
I
Jennifer?
see her.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Jennifer. Welcome back.
I have magically reappeared, although you can tell that the sun has gone down since last we saw each other. So yes, what a wonderful chat. And we have some really good questions here. First of all, I will say, if you have not yet voted in the poll, which is shaken or stirred, and that's not necessarily about alcohol, please go ahead and vote now so I can report the results of that later on. Let me get to the questions here. Is there a possibility that Hartford Stage or Long Wharf Theater would offer free streaming of some past show recordings like the National Theater is doing on their YouTube channel?
I'll answer this, and then Jacob join me. National Theater has spent millions of dollars over the last however many years to make these extraordinary broadcasts. I love them as well. American theaters, by and large, have not invested in this, in videoing productions. So our archival videos of our productions don't look good. The National Theater is like all these cameras, they have special rehearsals. I mean, they spend a lot of money on this. If you saw our archival productions, what that really means is there's one camera at the back of the house, and they're really for archival purposes. Understudies can use them, stage managers, if a show is remounted. They're not meant for public viewing. So I think this is one of the things that's erupted in this moment. And when Jacob talks about how we're going to be reinvigorated and look to new ways, I know that one of the things we all need to think about is how we use these platforms, how we use video, how we record our work. But I'll say what I said at the beginning, nothing replaces live theater. So I'm going to be a missionary for the fact that we all need to be together, breathing the same air as actors when it's safe to do so. But yeah, this sort of bringing out of archival tapes, they won't be like the NT Live or the Met broadcast, right? Frank, I see you nodding. So you know, if you want to jump in here, this has been a question that has been,
if there
you know.
only were.
Oops.
I think
Frank is frozen. Jacob, what do you think? I mean,
the other thing that I would just offer up, just in terms of like a real kind of logistical roadblock, is just the unions. Like that's a huge piece of it. Is the unions that we have to deal with, specifically, you know, Actors Equity. You know, they're a very powerful, thoughtful union, and so that's, you know, that sometimes that can also that's just a complicated part of the equation. But I think I absolutely agree with you, Melia, that part of what we are in the business of is creating meaningful connection, and how do you actually orchestrate that connection unless you're in a dark room with strangers? You come into this space as strangers and you walk out a community.
That's
and
right.
I think that's part of the work that the theater does.
And I would draw people's attention. There was a great New York Times op-ed by Peter Gelb of the Metropolitan Opera. And he talks about how the artists change because of the audience. He talks about that relationship between the artist and the audience and how crucial it is. I know the question isn't, do we replace live theater? I get it. I just, it's a scary moment for us performing arts organizations, I think, because there is so much great stuff to stream, but it's not the same thing. And most American theaters, as Jacob says, mostly, you know, unions, money, any number of reasons. We're not going to put up our shows in that way. There are new deals being made with all the unions of trying to figure out this new live streaming world, but it's not the same.
Okay. Well, we've lost Frank momentarily, but I've re-invited him back on screen. So let's go to the next question, which is, given the continued need for social distancing, how do you envision live theater under these conditions?
I think that we are making it up as we go.
That's exactly right. That's exactly. We don't know.
We don't know. I think that because this is an unprecedented moment. I think certainly in my lifetime, and I think in many others, and I think for the field. So I think that we are making it up in real time in terms of how do we continue to stay connected to our audiences? How do we take care of our artists? How do we take care of our staff, right? What is this new normal? And I'm not sure that we've quite cracked it yet. So I think that it's going to be an emergent process in terms of discovery together. Yeah, but we of course want to make sure that we're taking care of our audiences and keeping people safe and healthy.
Agreed.
First and foremost. How about you, Melia?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's a huge act of improv. If you study improvisation, the rule, and most of you might know this from popular culture in one way or another, is it's yes and you don't say no to anything. As we move into this new world, it's going to be a huge act of improvisation. I'm thinking of how at the beginning of this virus, Yale rep had said that they would continue to perform, but only let 100 people or 50 people into the theater. Do you remember that, guys? It was something until they were totally shut down by the university, right?
Yeah.
So you sort of wonder, is it every 3 seats? Do you know, are you going to only do half a house? The question about videoing is valid. I've had subscribers and donors say to me, so will you videotape the fall shows in case we don't want to come to the theater? But Jacob said it. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. And if you all out there have ideas, let us know what the ideas are.
Well, there are a lot of drive-in theaters around Connecticut that are mothballed.
Oh, well, there you go.
We can all drive our cars and create a theater there. I don't know.
Well, I will say it's Jacob and I are both in some similar groups and some different groups of artistic director conversations. And this has been, you know, the conversation. I'm in 2 different sort of think tanks of artistic directors talking about what to do. So we're all in touch with so many folks in the same situation. There's an interesting article by Chris Jones in the Chicago Tribune today about this stuff as well. I mean, we don't know. We don't know, just as restaurants don't know, and the gig economy is hurting. I mean, I think, you know, the devastation of unemployment and the income inequality in this country. I mean, we're going to have a lot of questions when we come out of this. I will reach out to all of you and say, you know, if you want to see a play, and I know Jacob would support in this completely, and you can't afford a ticket, write us. Don't give up the theater in spite of all the financial challenges ahead, because the theater is a core. You know, we're talking about who's essential. I think we're essential. Don't you, Jacob? Don't you, Frank? I mean, we're essential.
Well, it's something that you said, Melia, at that lunch that we had, in terms of it's not just, well, I like this play or not. It's you're important to our life.
That's right.
And it's the larger picture of and I hate the word that you use the word institution, but it's a place that's very important to us. And whether what play it is, there's something going on there that's very exciting that will now hopefully speak in more urgent terms to a more local community more than ever. And there's not many places like that. And certainly the theater is one of them. And we just have to be a little bit patient to see what emerges. It's only been 4 weeks.
Oh my God, it's a lifetime, isn't it?
It seems like a lifetime.
Yeah.
But things will emerge at some point, and it's going to be, that void is going to be filled with something. And hopefully our best and brightest creative people, I'm sure, will find ways to make theater important again. So that's
awesome.
That's great.
Is that a button line?
I'm going to ask one more question from the audience. It's actually from one of our trustees at the Mark Twain House. One of our beloved trustees, Ted Whittemore, wants to know, Melia and Jacob, what did your parents want you to be when you grew up?
Very good. I wish I asked that.
Yeah. Who's going to go first?
To be totally honest, I actually don't remember. I don't remember my parents ever putting that on me in terms of, I mean, it's going to sound cliche, but I think that it was about, finding something that I was passionate about and something that was going to allow me to pay the bills. My parents worked in the fields. My grandparents worked in the fields. So, they didn't go to college. They certainly didn't have the kinds of opportunities, that I've had. I mean, it was really, truly like, we are going to make the sacrifices so that way you have a different life. And so I think every day I think about my parents, I think about my ancestors, how I carry their stories, I carry their dreams on my shoulders in a way that doesn't feel heavy, in a way that I just feel gratitude. And so, I'm not sure that my parents totally have the context for when I tell them I'm an artistic director, I think that they're like, oh, like, that's great. You're doing great work. I think that if I like went to the Tony Awards or if I went to the Academy Awards, then I think then they would have a context for what that is. Like, oh, you really made it. But I think by and large they're very, very supportive, and I do all that I can to just try to make them really proud. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, top that, Melia. Whoops.
There's a little.
Melia might be frozen.
There's a little frozen.
Whoops.
And we can imagine what her parents thought of little Melia. Oh, no, she's
I'm uninviting her, and I'm going to bring her back up on.
Okay.
We are learning the ropes of crowdcast.
I'm so curious about now Melia's parents.
I know. Well, let's find out. Sorry, it's dark in here. Okay.
In the meantime.
All right, she's accepted and connecting, so we should see her. There she comes.
Okay.
What does Mr. and Mrs. Bensussen think of little Melia?
It's more complicated than that. It's I was partially raised by my grandparents who lived in New York. I spent the summers with my grandparents and the school year with my parents. Long story, and I won't bore you all, but my grandfather, because of the quotas on medical school as a first-generation Jew in this country, became a podiatrist because he couldn't get into medical school because of the quotas. And so his dream was that I would be a doctor. And that was, the old, isn't that like such a cliche of good Jewish grandparents? But, and the whole theater thing did not go over well with my grandparents at first. But my parents, not unlike Jacob's, were all about what is your passion. The truth is I never did anything else, although I did lie. When I was in college, I was a literature and theater major, and I claimed that if nothing else, I'd go to law school because that seemed a way to get rid of the questions. Because when I said I was going to the theater, all I heard was, well, you can't make a living. To quote, what is it? Is it Moss Hart who said in the theater, you can't make a living, but you can make a killing?
That's right.
But Jacob, you and I are in the not-for-profit. We'll never make a killing. but here we are trying to make a living. So
and you were fired by Joe Papp.
I mean, how much better does it get than that? It's true.
Well, thank you all so much for doing this. I give you my best virtually. Give you all
hugs,
theatrical hug,
hugs all hands,
and applause always. So hopefully we'll see you next at the theater, or maybe we'll touch base a little bit later this summer to remind everyone that it's not too late to subscribe or donate.
That's great.
All right.
Okay. Good night, all.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Frank. Jacob. Mwah. Mwah.
I'll email you.
Thank you to everybody.
Email me. Thank you all. Thank you for making this happen. Thank you all for being there to hear us.
Good luck, everybody.
Good
Hang
luck.
in there.